Good afternoon. My name is Pastor Luther Hickley, Senior Pastor of Newburgh Worship Center. I decided to do my own little segment. My wife, she's been interviewing everybody after the service. She's got no limitations or whatever that thing is. So what I did, I decided to just bring my wife into my world because this Sunday night we're doing honeymooners, and honeymooners is our marriage ministry. And we've seen so many couples that came literally from the brink of destruction. We've seen God restore their marriage, and so I just want to kind of share some things with you as well as my wife, because a couple of months ago we had the opportunity to minister to several couples that was in Minnesota, and we was in our home in Port Orange by way of Skype. And one of the couples asked us the question, and one of the questions in which they asked what was one of the hardest things that we had to overcome as a couple. What was one of the hardest things that we had to overcome as a couple? I'm reiterating that because oftentimes as pastors, we don't want to be transparent. We don't want to tell people that we had issues as well. And so without even thinking, I said by far the hardest thing we had to overcome was infidelity. And I think that took them by surprise. It took them, it was like shock that a pastor would say that he cheated on his wife. Well, in the first 2 years of our marriage, it was very, very, very difficult. I didn't want to be married, didn't want to be with this beautiful woman. I didn't take the vows very seriously. She did. And of course, because I was in the streets and wasn't saved, didn't know Jesus, there were some things that I was entertaining. And so one of the things that we had to overcome as a couple when I got saved was I had to be honest with her, to tell her some of the things in which I was involved in before I got saved. And so in my interview with my wonderful wife, I want to ask her, during that difficult time of our marriage, how did she come out? Because I know that there's a lot of ladies that want to come out but don't know how to forgive, want to come out but don't know how to move on from the pain in which he caused her. And so, Monica, how did we overcome the most difficult part of our marriage?
Well, I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, but because we always use it cliches, but it was God. You got to remember, I wasn't saved, he wasn't saved, and so when the infidelity took place, he wasn't saved. And I can remember getting saved, and that's when you came and you let me know what happened. And it was difficult to hear, it was hard. I was devastated. We went through 3 days of being separated in the house. You didn't leave, I didn't leave, because I needed time to process that. And so as being a newborn Christian, I can remember the first time I heard the Holy Spirit. And he said to me, if you don't forgive him, then I can't forgive you. I didn't know the scriptures. I just heard that. And what we did, we finally came together. And I don't know if I shared it with you, but I learned the first valuable lesson that I learned in our marriage was forgiveness. And I will say this, just because I forgave him, the thought still ran across my mind. And so what I had to do, I had to make sure that I didn't rehearse it.
Yes.
When we say it's under the blood, it was under the blood. And I kept it in that place. And it was a fight, it was a struggle, because you always think, what did I do? Wasn't I good enough? No, that was just sin.
Right.
And you can't dissect sin, because sometimes if you try and dissect sin, then you find yourself getting caught up in the situation and constantly rehearsing it.
Right.
And I had to make a decision not to rehearse it. I had to stay in my word. I had to pray. And not trying to be deep, just trying to survive it.
Yes.
And that's how I got through it.
Well, you said something, because a lot of marriages don't survive
they don't.
infidelity. They don't survive it, and I know some of the people there, when they listen to this video, they're going to say, well, why did you have to tell her? Because you wasn't saved at the time. Why did you have to tell her?
Right.
Well, I was pretty much forced to tell her, because I got a letter in the mail saying that there was a young lady that had a baby, and she claimed that the baby in which she had was mine. And so I had to go down there and take the blood test. And my wife was, after we went through what we went through, she was so supportive. She actually went down there with me to take the blood test, just to find out that the child wasn't mine.
Right.
So what was my position? What did I do? One of the things I know I had to do, I had to rebuild her confidence and her trust in me. And so what I did was, I began to tell her everywhere I was gone. I would literally, of course, back in the day they didn't have cell phones. Matter of fact, 25 years ago they didn't have pagers, and so I would tell her, okay, I'm going to the store. Do you want to go with me? Or I would tell her I'm going to the store or go to a friend's house, and I would tell her what time I would be home. Yeah, okay, I put myself on punishment. Well, you got to understand that we've got to be, as men, we've got to be accountable to somebody. And there's so many men that's not accountable to anybody. And then you find yourself in situations where you can't come out. Now you find yourself divorced. And so I was accountable to my wife. I wanted to rebuild her trust in me, her confidence in me, and that when I say I was going to do something, I would do it. When I say I was going to be at a particular place, I would be there and not be somewhere else. And so that accountability in our relationship during that time was very important to me. I didn't understand the scriptures, didn't know the scripture, didn't know God was going to make us a model couple. Wasn't trying to be a model couple. I'm just like my wife. We was just trying to survive without breaking stuff up, without choking each other out, without her moving out or me moving out. And so couples don't want to be honest. They don't want to be honest enough to be transparent, because there's someone that's listening to this video that's going to say, my God, I didn't know that about Luther, didn't know that about Monique. And remember, at the time it wasn't Pastor Luther and Pastor Monique. It was Luther and Monique. We were just trying to survive. We were just trying to, okay, God, I know I love this wife. This wife has my wife has put up with so much stuff, and God, I want to be with her for the rest of my life. God, what do I do now? And he just began to talk to me as relates to building confidence and trust. And how do you build confidence and trust? Becoming accountable, becoming transparent, become open. And so what would you tell some of the women right now that just cannot let this part of their life go, cannot forgive their husband for what he did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago? They just cannot forgive him. What would you say to them?
Well, if they make a decision not to forgive him, then they are reliving the act over and over and over and over.
Wow, did you hear that?
And over and over and over again. And you got to be crazy to want to live in that pain constantly.
Yes.
You know, it gets to a point that you say, listen, I've got to heal from this. And then sometimes people try to use that against the spouse, and you can't do that. You know, that tit for tat in marriages is what really causing a lot of marriages not to have a good foundation. And unless they really want to start reliving the act over and over, because I had a choice. I could have made a decision to go ahead and rehearse it, even though I wasn't there. What comes into play is the mental pictures. Now you picturing this, and it wasn't even like that, because you got this mental picture. You reliving it all over and over, and then they come and confront the husband. Well, you did this, you did that. How was it? And you know, I need you to tell me the truth. Why would you want to relive something like that? And so I made a conscious decision. I didn't want to be a prisoner of that kind of pain. That was a part of the past.
Did y'all hear that? What she's saying there's so many marriages, so many ladies, so many men have literally become a prisoner of their pain. I'm saying, we're saying this because if you chose to stay with them, then you got to get over it. I know this hard saying. If you chose to stay with them after they've committed infidelity, then you got to get over it. You got to heal from the pain of that past. You got to heal from the pain of that event. So you won't continue to relive that or become a prisoner of that moment, or prisoner of that pain. And so this Sunday night, my wife and I, we're going to be teaching couples. We're going to be teaching them on how to not just survive, but thrive. That's what we want. We want to see people of like precious faith come and hear what God has to say concerning them, so that their marriage won't just survive, but it'll thrive. So many times we stay married because I'm here because of the children. I don't want to leave her because of the children. Don't want to leave him because of the children. No, my children are grown. I can leave if I want to. Our children are grown. She can leave if she wants to. Don't worry about child support. Don't worry about alimony. We can leave, but we choose to stay together. And with that being said, you got to remember that this will be our last honeymooners of the year. And so we want you to come out this Sunday night at 6 o'clock to be blessed by the word in which God